maestros, this is Trolls from 8Dio, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at our Adagio Violas Ensemble short notes. This is short note paradise for anybody who's really into it, for anybody who's into epic scoring, for anybody who's into like that fast ostinato kind of sound. This is probably the most extensive collection of short notes I've ever known, and especially short notes that just sound the perfect way. The viola is sort of the middle ground between the cello and the violin. It has a little more body than the violin. It's not so whiny and it's not so deep as the cellos, and it's the perfect short note instrument in my opinion. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at all our different ones. We have our feathered spiccatos, which are more brushed and slow. We have our tap spiccato, which is more fast and strong, and there's some really interesting things with this one. And we also have 3 different types of Sordino spiccatos. We went absolutely nuts in terms of getting the Sordino spiccato, which to me is one of the most perfect spiccato sounds. We have our staccato and a marcato, which is mandatory, and we put in some Sordino marcato as well. And of course you got the pizz and the bartok pizz as well. But before we get started, let me just demonstrate this tightness knob down here. This one is important for the short notes. Essentially it allows you to cut into the note. With the feathered spiccatos here, for example, they have a sort of light brush in the beginning, and sometimes you don't want that. You want a more tight sound. Let me just try to play with and without it. And turn it up here. You can hear it's kind of more pointy. Turn up again. And you can sort of hear that the sound gets like chopped off a little bit. It gives a little more definition. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's not so great because you want to have that very brushed, beautiful sound in there. And I think the feathered spiccatos is a good example of that. What we were trying to do with them is really to get that initial brush. Commonly in sample libraries, you'll cut out the initial thing because not all the players hit exactly at the same time, and you don't want that kind of sound. But there's a beauty to it, and it's really one of the things that can make your mock-up sound more real. They don't necessarily sit right in the grid with your quantizer, and you have to be careful when you play with them. You can always tighten them up using the tightness knob here, but there's a beauty and an innocence to the way they sound just in their raw condition. Let me try to play around with it here. And you can hear that feathered quality, that light brush in it. And again, you can always use the tightness knob if you think it's a little too loose, but I recommend that you play around with these in a more unquantized state. They're great in that way. The opposite can be said about our Spicata Tab, which is one of my favorite ones. Colin and I went to excessive lengths, and we got everything from the tiniest, shortest, sweetest pianissimo up to a really strong fortissimo. And it allows you to sculpt your ostinatos a little more. Instead of just going da 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 da, you can really play more elaborately with it and sculpt it more. If you listen to like those last notes, there's such a sweet detail in them. Let me try to play a little bit here and try to hear how much you can sculpt with the short note. These are short notes. These are not really the most expressive things in the world, but I think a lot can be done with them. One of the great qualities about Adagio, and you can probably hear it a lot here in the Spicata Tab, is that the excessive amount of sampling. We have 8 to 10 round robin for everything here, with the exception of the Mikados, but everything else is recorded to great lengths. There's many velocity layers going into this as well. And this is probably the most deep sample collection ever done of short notes for violas. And I think it just speaks to the beauty of the instrument. There's something very special about these short notes. I think the viola is the ultimate short note instrument. We also recorded some more epic kind of fast notes. These are designed for more aggressive epic style playing and can really sit in the pocket with an epic mix. We also added our art feature to the fast spiccatos here, and essentially this is very simple. You click a key and it generates a note, but when you let go of the key, it also generates a note, and allows you to play really fast, but without playing fast on the keyboard, because you have to play in half tempo. Let me try to demonstrate here so you can get a feeling for it. The next category here is really a testament to obsession. Colin and I just fell in love with the Sordino Spicata the first time we heard them. And granted, there's a difference between feather and tapped and loose, but we're still in spiccato land. And I want to give you an example of what happens when you record on different days, when the mood of the player is a little different, the conductor is a little different, and we're trying some very, very subtle techniques, but these are still roughly the same ones. But we deep sampled them. We did 3 exactly almost identical groups, and yet they're so different. Let me just try to go through them here, and then I'll try to demonstrate them a little more in detail. It's kind of amazing how much coloration there is to each of these notes. Let me try to go a little more in depth so you can get a better feeling for it. Let me try here with a feathered one first. And again, this is the more brushed, loose kind of sound. It's a little identical to our spiccato loose, and you can always use the tightness, but I'm going to play without for now. It's just that beautiful, rich sound. The tap here is a little more identical to our Spicata Tab. This is just for the Sordino, of course. It's a little more aggressive and pointy. I just think it's one of those, there's something about the body of the instrument, particularly for the Sordinos, where you can almost hear the instrument sort of all the way in your face. Of course, we also have our loose ones, which are a little identical to feather, but even more loose. So the tightness knob may apply very well in this one. We also have a sweet selection of staccato and marcato notes. I think one of the things, and it's mandatory to do in any libraries, of course, to have staccatos and marcatos, but one of the things we try to do different with Adagio is even to pay attention to the emotional aspect of short notes. A marcato is commonly recorded as a death, but when you listen to scores and see how it's commonly used outside the sample library world, it's actually a note marker with some identity. You would typically hear like a more definition in the note. Try to listen here to these marcatos and see if you can see if my ramblings make any sense. It can be even small things, just having that little swoop in the end or do different things, but the marcato is certainly not intended just to be a static note. We also did it for Sordino. Let's check them out. You just get that great little swoop in the end. It's just a wonderful sound. And of course, we also have our beloved pizzicato and bartok pits. Anyway, I'll stop my ramblings right here. It's been a delightful pleasure to share our short notes, and there'll be plenty more videos to come soon. So thank you for watching.